Hi there, and welcome to another interview. Today I got the fabulous Chris with me, and I'm going to ask Chris the same question I ask absolutely everybody. And hey, Chris, why did you become a carnivore?
Hi, Stephen. Well, it's a longish story. I suppose it starts way back when. Born in the late 50s. I'm coming up to 68. Grew up, obviously, in the 60s and 70s with a mother that was fully bought into the public information. Stop eating fat, make sure you don't eat butter, that kind of thing. Loads of seed oils. At the time, I didn't know any better. She didn't know any better. I suppose quite a lot of us didn't know any better. The 70s and 80s started married life. We're both busy, eating ready meals, takeaways, standard fare, standard Western diet, I suppose, as we now refer to it. And what I didn't know then is that the downhill trend had started. My only regret about knowing what I know now is I wish I'd known it 40 years ago, maybe, but we can't wind the clock back, and hindsight's a wonderful tool. Really, in the mid-90s was where I got the health issues starting when I was in my mid-30s. Started with gout. Didn't know what it was at first, just thought I'd stubbed a toe or something like that, but realised it was quite more serious than that. And GP prescribed allopurinol, which cured it, which of course it hadn't cured it, it just made it go away, the pain. But the trend had started. Then 8 or 10 years later, in the mid-noughties, I'm now in the mid-40s, kidney stones. I had surgery twice, so I had 3 events and 2 surgeries, one lithotripsy, which is they smash the stone up by ultrasound. And I got rid of them, or should I say the surgeon got rid of them. But no real reasons why I got them. I think it was a shrug of the shoulders. Well, some people get them. And I think that's probably the common knowledge at the time. Regularly blood pressure 140, 150. I was about 15 stone. I'm only 5'6", so 210 pounds for those who measure in pounds. So overweight, but not morbidly obese, just probably clinically obese. But I felt I could cope with it. And yes, would I like to lose a few pounds? But I'm, mid-40s, so it's not a problem. Got time enough. Then in the early 10s, so I was 52, I think. I got cataracts. Vision, I've always been short-sighted, but vision was progressively worse, blurring, couldn't cure it, optician, go to the hospital, I think you've got cataracts. So I had the cataract surgery. And then about 2014, so 56, 57 years old, diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Who knew? A1C was 7.5. Don't know what that is in milligrams. Prescribed metformin and told quite assertively by my GP it's a chronic condition for life, and we can manage it if you make lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes, I read all the books, I read all the papers that you're supposed to do, the diabetes.co.uk, plenty of whole grains, plenty of exercise, low fat, lots of fruit and veg, at least 5 a day, if not 7. So, like a dutiful student, I went down that route. And really, it was I was feeling okay, but I was a type 2 diabetic. And then I was progressively getting worse. I had diabetic retinopathy of the eye. This was getting worse every year. So from 2014 up towards the events of 2020, when I was having regular injections in the eyeball. Not pleasant. Sorry if that's spoiled someone's breakfast. To, again, manage this chronic condition. I really, really didn't know then, although it was called diabetic retinopathy, the diabetes was directly linked to it any more so than what I've been told. So it was like an education process, you know. And then in about 2020, in early 2021, I had an ischemic stroke. Always happens to someone else, doesn't it? It was quite a serious stroke in the top of the head, but I confess I was very lucky. I lost about 5% movement in my left side, but really, I got that back fairly quickly, 5 or 6 weeks. And my LDL at the time, at the time of the stroke, I was told was 3.5, which is 135 in milligrams.
Mm.
So it was 3.5, but I was put on a statin. And the reason I was put on a statin, or the reason given, is that everyone who has a stroke goes on a statin.
Mm.
So like a one-size-fits-all pill. Quite a good way into sort of a year or so into the statins, I was really struggling with muscular pains, muscular wasting, that kind of thing. A couple of days, couldn't really get out of bed to go to work. I was standing on the floor out of bed and it was a nightmare. Got them to reduce the dosage from 40 mil to 20 mil, but to be fair, it was horrid. But my LDL was pretty good. Also, the GP said. And then I sort of had a seminal moment last Easter. So that's Easter, which was early in March of 24, when I decided I feel like garbage. I really do feel like garbage. Getting up's hard. Going to bed's hard. Taking all these pills is hard. Blood pressure was no better, but I was resisting blood pressure medication. I'd had enough, for want of a better, for want of a better expression, I'd completely had enough. My HbA1c, I'd been on metformin, so 800 mil a day. Does that sound right? 800 mil a day, I forget. 2 by 200 twice a day. So my HbA1c was around 55 to 60. And my regular finger pricks, which by regular I mean every day, every other day, that kind of thing. Sometimes postprandial, sometimes before eating. 3 meals a day, plus a healthy snack of fruit and veg. My finger pricks were about 8, fasting 8, postprandial 10, 11. But really, no improvement, but management, as the doctor had said. But I'd had enough. I'd had enough of feeling garbage. So I started reading, I started watching. First book I read was Why We Get Sick, Ben Bikman, which I think is a great book. Then I'd heard about keto. So I read a book called Keto Clarity, which I think Eric Westman endorses. Then I started watching your channel. Then I started watching Ken Berry and Eric Westman's channel as well. Eric was at the time, I think, very much keto, not carnivore, but I now sort of reading between the lines, I think that's to maintain the masses as opposed to what he really believes. But So I thought, I'll try this keto. This looks like a go. And I'm very stubborn. So I didn't find it easy, but I found it easy to stick to. So on April the 1st of 2024, and it's not a joke, it's not an April Fool's joke, I decided I'm going to go 30 gram a day keto, 30 to 50 gram a day keto. And I quit alcohol on the same day. I was never a big drinker, 20 units a week. I didn't consider that a big drinker, but I was a drinker. I like to drink, a social drink, but could take it or leave it. So I decided to leave it for no other reason than I thought that is perhaps one of those things that I can remove without too much trouble, and it's a good control by removing it. So I went keto, and it was not easy. It really wasn't easy. 30 grams a day, I stuck to it. But I didn't do any cheating. I never cheated once. I even threw the chocolate biscuits away and emptied the cupboards as per Dr. Berry's advice. Emptied the cupboards, throw it away. Can't see it, can't eat it. And it was not hell for 3 weeks. And I'm deadly serious. If anyone's watching and doesn't believe it, 3 weeks, it wasn't hell, but it was really tough. I was constantly thinking about food, constantly thinking, I'm hungry, constantly, battling with it. But there was a side effect that I hadn't expected, and it wasn't the reason I started it. I didn't start this to lose weight, but I'd lost 7 pounds. And I thought, hang on, I've done that by sitting on the couch. I didn't do it by taking up jogging or marathon running or weight training like Richard. I didn't do any of that. I just did my life. And I lost 7 pounds. I'd almost say by accident, but I now know, obviously, it wasn't by accident. And then I had finger pricks that I'd taken to doing finger prick blood testing. Not got a CGI, can't get a CGI. Could do, but I can't afford it. Excuse me. And the blood pricks, the finger pricks, were all of a sudden in the 7s and in the 6s and in the 7s. And I was doing it. I decided to do a regime of 4 pricks a day, every day, same times. So 3 meals a day still. Healthy breakfast of yogurt, full fat yogurt. My weakness, I suppose, is a few nuts, but really, I do monitor that. I really monitor that. 20 grams maximum. And then I had a sort of, what do you call it? Road to Damascus moment when about 4 weeks in, suddenly, literally got up one morning, not hungry. And I thought, whoa, what's this all about? Not hungry. And then, of course, it became easier. So when it became easier, I decided to, still reading, still watching, I decided to migrate, is that the right word, to Ketovore and cut the last few things out. I cut milk out. I still eat dairy. I still eat dairy today, so I'm not really a true carnivore. But it's beef, butter, bacon, eggs. And I was down to, I'd like to say sub 20 grams a day, but in reality, some days 10 grams or no grams. So it was a progression into keto, and the weight was falling off me. I'd lost 6 weeks in, I'd lost at least a stone, 6 to 7 kilos, 14 pounds. And it was going in the right direction. Like I said, I'd been 15 stone for forever and 14 and a half if I went on a starvation diet to soon put it back on again. I was now staring at the scales at 13 stone and thinking, wow, what's going on here? And then I'd get up the next day and it'd be 12 stone. Wow, 12 stone 13. So I'd broken the magic barrier of 13 stone. And there were little milestones along the way. Well, wouldn't it be nice to be 12 and a half stone? And that came and went, and the bloods kept getting better and better. So about 7 weeks in, I halved under my own volition. I halved my metformin and then monitored my blood properly with the finger pricks. There was no change. 6, 6.5, 7 after I'd eaten. And I thought, I need to keep my eye on this. And the pounds kept falling and 12 stone approached and passed. And I thought, wow, this is unbelievable, because I was genuinely not hungry. And I had conversations with my wife, and she'd say, what do you want for lunch? And I'd say, I'm not hungry. And there was a very short period where she was angry. You've got to be hungry. You've got to be hungry because it's 12 o'clock, lunchtime, and B, you've had nothing to eat today. And I said, haven't I? Didn't really. Well, wow. I'm genuinely not hungry. So I didn't eat. I'll come to my wife's story later. And then I decided 10 weeks in, I had an upcoming regular diabetes review, HbA1c test, lipid test in August of 2024. So at the end of June, beginning of July, I stopped metformin completely. My idea was I'd be 6 weeks away from an HbA1c test, and I wanted to clear my body, as it were, in my head. I don't know whether I was doing the right thing or not. And blood kept staying the same, 6, 6.5, 5.8. Wow, let's have a party. No, let's not have a party, And so August came. Excuse me. 12 stone threshold was a memory. That's gone. I mean, I'm 11 stone odd now, so that's gone. Went for my HbA1c test, which had been, as I said, hovering 55 to 60 for the last 10 years on metformin. Now I was going into an HbA1c test 10 weeks in, 12 weeks in really, to Keto, and not on any metformin. HbA1c was 35. Doctor said, wow. Well, actually, the doctor didn't, because I couldn't get to see him. I could only see the nurse. The nurse said, wow. She actually said to me, what are you doing? I said, I've adopted a low-carb diet, because I didn't want to get into any arguments or anything. I said, I just don't eat sugar. That's fantastic. Keep on what you're doing. But there's a problem. Your LDL's 6. So you need to take a statin. I said, well, I've stopped taking my statin that you prescribed. Maybe that's why my LDL's up, maybe not. But I feel fantastic. And above anything else, I felt fantastic. And that's really the medical story to there. She said, well, we'll book you for another test, HbA1c test, in January of 25, which is 6 months hence at the time. I thought to myself, that's not close enough. So I booked a private HbA1c for another 3 months down the line. In between August 24 and the blood test of November 24, I effectively went dirty carnivore, which is carnivore, small handful of nuts, some dairy, no milk, quit milk, double cream in the coffee. Cut my coffee consumption down to 3 cups a day, sometimes 2 cups, many days 1 cup. And went again for my HbA1c test. By the way, the 11 stone threshold was looming then. So 11 stone is 154 pounds. But I did notice that the weight loss that I wasn't trying to achieve had slowed. The curve had slowed. So I sort of convinced myself I might be getting to where I need to get with this diet, but I'll let my body tell me, as opposed to having a dietary goal, a weight goal. Sorry, my view of the scales was just based on, oh, here comes 11.5 stone, here comes 11 stone. You know, it was more arbitrary like that. Went for my HbA1c in November, following going carnivore-ish. I'm not really carnivore. I'm a heavy, strict ketovore, but carnivore-ish. 2 meals a day, sometimes 1 meal a day. Very, very occasionally I'll have a breakfast, but I still maintain 16/8 fasting. But most days it's 19/5. Always eat before 6 p.m. before bed at 10:30. So I try and follow the rules, but they're not really rules as we know. But and that works for me. So HbA1c in November was 35. And then Christmas came, didn't cheat, didn't have a morsel of drink, didn't have a carb, watched everyone else pigging out on roast potatoes and all the rest of it, potatoes and parsnips, and I just had 2 extra pigs in blankets and looked happy. And February came and I said, oh, right, time for this non-regular but sought after HbA1c test. And the HbA1c was done. But I did ask for a fasting insulin, which had to be referred to the doctor. And the doctor came back with the comment, no point doing a fasting insulin, you're not diabetic anymore. And I thought, okay. Had the HbA1c, 35 again. So technically not diabetic. I've now had 3 35s. So that's under the definition, I believe, of diabetes, that's actually in remission. So I don't think you're ever cured, but I don't know. But I'm in remission. And that was that, really. That's the story. I do have an aside. Back in October of 24, so before my November blood test, my good lady wife of 49 years decided to join me on the ketovore journey. Her reasons were been on blood pressure medication and been on omeprazole, both for a quarter of a century for high blood pressure and acid reflux. Bottom line is, to date, she's lost 30 pounds in weight and 3 sizes of dress trousers. So she's just recently bought a pair of size 8 shorts, which she hasn't been size 8 since 49 years ago when we got married. So there's another story, but that's her story to tell.
Amazing. I mean, that's really good. And just for people listening on the audio, because I will put the figures up that we talked about. 7, when you talked about HbA1c of 7, that sort of equates to about 126 milligrams per deciliter, but also as percentage, 7% is, diabetic. And 35 equates to 5.4% if you do it in percent. And that's definitely non-diabetic. And I know you were being magnanimous there, saying it's just in remission. I'm not sure if it's cured. Well, yeah, it is. I mean, you're not diabetic. Simple as that. It just shows that the cause is carbohydrates. Simple as that. It really is that simple. And obviously, if you went back to eating carbohydrates, I think the problem would come back. But that's not physiology. That's the wrong diet for you. Not species appropriate. Chris, that was really, really good. I know you very kindly didn't include one little bit of information, but I'm going to include it, but we won't get into it. It's just before your stroke, you did have a pharmaceutical intervention that was pushed quite heavily. That's all I'll say. But
Indeed.
we won't get into that.
Well, I'll probably not be having that again.
Yeah, well, no, that's true. So gout, has that ever returned?
No, and I've stopped the allopurinol as part of my cleansing of drugs. So gout has not returned. Kidney stones have not returned. And as regards the retinopathy, I've now been because as you know, once you're in the diabetic retinopathy clinic, they look at you every 16 weeks or so, 20 weeks. I've had 3 visits and it's stabilized. So from 10 years of degeneration, it's now stabilized for the last 12 months. Well, 10 months, it's stabilized. And the consultant says, keep doing what you're doing. That's no other interventions at this present. I've had lenses implanted with the cataract operation. Distance-wise, fantastic. I can see everything. 20/20 vision, so to speak, as we used to say in the old days.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I like the fact that your wife went from getting angry with you to jumping on board and then seeing the difference, which is amazing.
She's
Yeah,
worse
and I
than
think
me now, telling everyone, how to do it. Because obviously with a lady, everyone says the same thing. Wow, you look fantastic. Have you lost all the weight? Which diet plan are
yes,
you doing? She just says, just eat meat.
yes. Does anyone take any notice, or do they immediately dismiss it because it's crazy and weird?
The polite ones take notice and
Mm,
then do exactly what they're doing. And then the non-polite family members, which we have an active relationship with, no, I need carbs. I'm different.
mm.
I'm the only person in 9 billion people on the planet that need carbs. So I go, oh,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. Keep eating
yeah.
your rolled oats and chocolat pan.
Yeah, yeah. It's sad, isn't it? Because both of you now obviously really good examples of what's going on. I know you're still a work in progress. I mean, which is why you came for a consultation.
Yep.
And I think, you know, um, there's so many good things. And this is one of the things sorry to get on my hobby horse, but all these good things, and yet they still worry about the LDL going up rather than thinking, well, maybe when all these good things happen that we don't normally see,
Well,
maybe that's a sign.
sorry to interrupt. I've got
Yeah.
my most recent blogs. Triglycerides are down below 1. HDL's up about 1.5. My LDL is 6.63. And my HbA1c is now 36, but it's 35, 36. But I'm not really on speaking terms with the GP because I won't take statins for the high LDL.
Mm,
And he's not actually seen me face to face since just after I had my stroke, which is 4 years ago. So everything's online via a nurse. The nurse says, "Oh, you should be on LDLs," and I go, "On what basis? Tell me on what basis."
mm.
And she can't answer that. Well, because doctor says so. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know when he
It's,
learned his medicine. He's in his 50s, so I presume he's learned his medicine in the 90s and the noughties.
mm,
I don't know. Just an
yeah.
update on the weight. I'm now 10 stone 10, which is 150 pounds. And
Mm,
I don't seem to be able to lose. I don't want to lose. I don't seem to be able to lose half a pound eating the way I do. I stay at 10 every day, every week. It's 10-10.
so that's
So,
£60 in total, isn't it?
yes, it's in that region. £60 since my very heaviest and probably
Yes.
45 to
Yeah.
50 on this journey that's been 4 years. And as you say, I'm a work in progress. One of the things I understand is that I'm not now better, therefore I can go and eat some donuts. I'm now better, let's keep it up, which is, when I watch Lee on Carnivore. I think he's adopted it for a completely different, probably emergency reason. Yet you keep it up. It's forever. And many people that I tell about it, do you not get bored? No, there's so much to eat. It's not what you can't eat. There's so much that I can eat that I never did eat, and
Mm.
really that's the way I try and sell it. If I'm trying to sell it, is that
Mm.
no, look at what you can eat. Fillet steak. Don't you like a fillet steak with a nice piece of pate on the top? And you know what I mean? Or do you
Eggs and
not?
bacon and chicken and goose and
Well,
duck and
they sort of look at me and say, "Well, what do you have for your breakfast?" I says, "Well, first of all, I don't have breakfast on 9 out of 10 days, and if I did have breakfast, I'd have bacon and scrambled egg, or on a sandwich. No, no, not had acid reflux for 5 years, for 4 years.
yeah,
So,
and that's all gone. And that's the thing. You've have got rid of a variety of these diseases.
yeah,
That's the thing.
and the weird stuff as well, dandruff gone.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Mm-hmm.
How? You know,
Just healthier.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nails don't break in half every time I stare at them. But there's stuff like that. Skin's better. Skin's softer, and
Mm.
I don't know. I look at you. You look 50, not 60, if not
Thank you very
40.
much. Yeah. Well, the skin bit is one thing I forget to tell people actually, because when I got married the second time, my wife, this was before I was low carb keto or carnivore, she grabbed my elbow and she said, "Oh, you've got loads of dry skin there. That's really bad." And I didn't think any more of it, but I mean, this is ages ago. This all fixed. But
Yeah,
once I went low carb and keto, that all went. Athlete's foot went. Like you say, all the sort of weird stuff or different stuff that you don't talk about much.
yeah.
It
Thanks
shows
for
that the body's
reminding me.
reacting.
Thanks for reminding me. Hard skin on my heels, gone.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's just a myriad of near miracle resolution and stuff. But I think that's really great, Chris. I mean, I'm not going to get into a long sort of thank you. I'll just say thank you for sharing that. And if your wife wants to come on and talk about her getting down to size 8, that would be really good.
she's probably too shy
Um,
for that. Just
but did you want to end on something? Is there anything else you'd like to add or sort of
no,
wrap up?
not really. I think anyone who's watching this video as a convert knows I'm telling the truth. Anyone who's watching the video because they're inquisitive, give it a go. Because
Yeah.
I had 10 years of diabetes, I had 10 years of diagnosed diabetes. I probably had it for 10 years before that. And I've had gout, kidney stones, cataracts, diabetes for 35 years. So give it a go, because even if you only do it for, a lot of people say, Ken Berry says 30 days. I think 60 days, and then you'll get to the bridge where you go, oh, this is easy. This is great. This is fantastic. The only thing you've got to put up with is people saying, you're mad, you're going to die, and all the rest of it. You're not getting your vitamins, which you clearly are. And other than that, I don't know what to say, really, other than give it a go. If you want to accidentally lose 25 pounds, give it a go.
Brilliant, yes. And I want to just clear up as well. One last little thing before we go. When people say, yeah, but you can't go back to all those carbohydrates, that's a bit like saying to someone who's given up smoking, who feels really great for giving up smoking. But you can't go back to 10 packs a day or 10 cigarettes a day or whatever you were doing. So that shows it's not really worked. Or
Why
if
would you
someone
want
was an
to?
alcoholic, yeah, exactly. Why would you want to do that? And the same with drinking, if someone's an alcoholic, you wouldn't say, yeah, you might be clean now, but can you still go out and have the occasional beer? I mean, well, why would you want to? Because obviously that's not something that suits your
And
personality.
if you were, if you were a family member and you had a confirmed alcoholic as a family member, that had gone clean and gone dry and all the rest of it, you wouldn't consider saying, "Oh, do you want a large Scotch for a treat?" But they have no compunction in saying to me, "Would you like a donut for a treat?" Well, look, sorry, I don't think it's a treat anymore because I know better now. But I didn't know better, and it took me. I'm only annoyed it took me the thick end of 62 years to find out that I didn't know better.
Yes. Well, Chris, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Okay, no problem. Great to speak to you.